Oh boy.
What is up, guys? Welcome to a shorty. This is the Earbud Shorty. We talk about the latest albums that come out.
Yes.
That is
the album that came just out.
that is the one defining feature of the shorties. That it is an album that has come out recently. Nothing else is required, which will be seen in this review of Billy Talent's new record, "Crisis of Faith."
Yeah, they're not always winners, Brett. I mean, we've had plenty of albums on this podcast that we didn't really enjoy that much, and I am honestly pretty disappointed by what we heard today.
Yeah, man, it's been a while since I've listened to Billy Talent. I listened to their first couple records, a couple songs from other records. This is the first time.
I used to like them a lot, man.
They were definitely a unique band. They had all these interesting riffs. The singer was very unique, and even if he was ear-shattering at times.
At times, yeah.
But they had a unique sound, and so I was excited to see how they progressed through the years. This is the first album they made since 2016. So it'd be interesting to see what growth they had, and it turns out they had no growth.
Yeah, I feel like they devolved a little bit from the last time I was really listening to them. I would say the last full album I heard by them was Billy Talent 2. So I think that was pretty long ago.
Yeah, that is.
That's with Falling Leaves, right? Like falling leaves on the ground.
Yeah, and Red Flag or whatever that song was called.
I just remember really loving that whole record and not really listening to them since. And then this, not having heard them in that long, this album felt really how do you say, derivative. This felt like everything that was on the radio, on rock radio in 2006, 2007, and an almost super on the nose way.
Yeah.
It felt very uninspired and very unoriginal.
If you had told me that they wrote this album in the early 2000s and they just decided to release it now, I would believe you. Most all of the songs don't take any risks. It's kind of exactly what pop punk bands were doing in the 2000s.
Yeah. Very straightforward too. Not trying to do anything different except on the opening track, Forgiveness, which was the most standout track, and not in a good way for me either.
I think we're probably both going to choose that as one of our nugs, right?
No, it's not.
No. Okay.
No, I didn't really like it that much.
We listened to it. It's the longest song they've recorded. It's almost 7 minutes.
Almost 7 minutes.
It has a kind of a switch up in the middle of it. It's interesting enough, but I was hoping that at the beginning of when we were listening to it, I was like, God, I hope this isn't the most interesting thing they do on the record. I hope they do other stuff that's also different and dynamic.
Yep.
Turns out, it kind of met my worries, and there are different tempos and songs and different moods and stuff, but nothing it feels like it's challenging or interesting.
Nothing else nothing else that was bringing the sounds that they were playing on Forgiveness 1 and 2, the opening track, which is two completely different songs that they just threw together.
Right.
And the first one is really throwback Iron Maiden, Judas Priest type of 80s metal sounding to me.
Yeah.
With kind of like an Eastern sounding guitar riff too that they did all the time back then too.
Right. And an interesting type of riff you wouldn't hear from other bands, and his voice lends itself well to having that 80s metal vibe.
It did. He has that vibrato down, man.
Yeah.
But the second half became like a mystery movie, spy movie type of vibe.
Right.
And, with saxophone solo mixed in there, and it was very weird, and it reminds me of this Avenged Sevenfold song that they put out that was super theatrical and almost like a musical theater type of song, and it just did not work. And I feel like this song Forgiveness just didn't work for me. And I think they did the song a disservice by putting it as number one. Because if it was just mixed in there on the record, just random number 6, number 7, somewhere in the middle, it would stand out to me enough that it would be a welcome change to the rest of the songs that sound all very, very similar. But throwing this as the first track on your record sets it up to where, okay, this is what we're going to hear from Billy Talent on this album, is this weird prog rock shit, which I would have been totally open to because they were pulling it off. And then they go, everything after this is just downhill.
Yeah, it's really nothing memorable. I thought the most interesting thing I heard was the intro of Wolf, when the drummer's doing this really quick cross stick thing. That's probably the most interesting drum song on the record, is the Wolf.
Yeah, the drums during the bridge had a cool like fill going there too.
But aside from that, the guitar solo or solos were all kind of flat and nothing. And there was a Weezer
very
feature.
Boring.
There was Rivers Cuomo featured on a song, and he kind of contributed
I thought his voice worked great on it.
I think it worked well. Yeah.
Yeah, his guest vocals were my favorite part of that song.
Yeah, it's just I wish, I don't know, they had done more with what they had.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, they had him on a verse and then he sang the last chorus along with them.
Right.
And as the song played out, like we both started picking up that this is clearly a Weezer tribute song.
Right, yeah.
And so like they're even quoted saying like, dude, we should get Rivers on this one. And Rivers is like, sure, I'll sing on a song that you guys are trying to write you guys wrote a Weezer song, like I'll sing on it. And it is probably the best part of the song for me. But yeah, man, there's a lot of just basic shit on this whole record. Like I Beg to Differ was really kind of boring. Like when the Wolf was playing, like once we actually got into the song, I started thinking, this is starting to get bad.
Yeah,
like before it was kind of just like whatever, and then it started getting bad.
I think it's the moment the MIDI strings came in is when I got real worried. I'm like, they're trying to do something and they're really not pulling through with it. I know what they're trying to do, but it's not working. And past that, I really couldn't get excited to hear much of the rest of the record, honestly.
No, man, those MIDI strings or synth strings, which I assume they were, sounded they really took me out of it a little bit. And then if those were real strings, then that's really bad because the production of them was really bad and compressed and sounded fake.
Right.
Like a lot of it felt like a really cheap way to try and make these songs sound a little bit more dramatic. And that's not to say that they didn't use synth well in other parts of the album. Like I did like the synthy part in the last verse of like hang out with wrong friends or hang out with the wrong friends or hanging out with the wrong people. Is that what it was?
Hanging out with the wrong people, I think.
Hanging out with all the wrong people. Yeah. Like they had some cool synth work on that one that was actually synthesizer, like not strings. So it sounded good and it fit the song and it added to it. Any other time they tried doing something else with the synthesizers, man, it took me out of the whole thing and I couldn't stand the production of it.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. They tried to do some different stuff across the record a little bit. The last couple songs were so unnotable. I didn't even take any notes for them. I don't know what notes I could have taken.
Yeah, I didn't write any notes for the closing track. I wrote, literally 1 to 2 sentences for each song, if anything. And it was weird to finally, like maybe halfway through the record, to realize like that I was bored. Like I haven't been bored listening to a rock album in a really, really long time. Like that takes something special. To be loud and like distorted guitars, and I'm fucking bored to tears.
I think we're just spoiled with the best music, man, because it's not like a bad record, it's not like insulting, but it's just a little basic. It's pretty basic and a little boring.
It's very basic. It's pretty boring. I think it's uninspired is harsh, but it did feel uninspired. Yeah,
for sure.
It was boring. They didn't sound like they were having a good time at all. And I don't know. I do so little research. I don't know the singer's name, but his lyrics are just like at times like so on the nose, and so cringy. But at the same time, I like that he's writing songs about this type of subject matter, like BLM and,
Right.
anti-police,
Yeah.
and hanging out with all the wrong people is all about like hanging out with Christians and politicians and
Yeah.
cops and people who are against progression in our society, which I love that they're writing songs about that. I hope that kids hear this and are inspired by it. But it does. His lyrics were just so on the nose that it was almost like at times it hurt.
It almost felt performative, and
It didn't feel genuine because it was so like I'm saying exactly what I'm saying, man.
I don't know. With that being said, I think we should move on to Narnugs. I'll go first since I kind of spoiled one of mine, which
Yeah.
is Forgiveness 1 and 2. I think it's interesting enough. It's got a cool, weird riff that you wouldn't hear from a lot of bands. It's almost math rocky a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. Classic Billy Talent chorus, kind of 80s Judas Priest inspired. I love the bass tone in that one part. That one little break. Yeah.
Yeah, that weird proggy bass thing, and I love the production of the guitars on this song, but on the whole record too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something we can nail down no matter what band these days, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. Like the guitars are really like heavily distorted, but they're jangly and they're bright, and it adds something to the music, and I liked it, and it stood out on this song specifically, like that production that they were going for.
Yeah. And then when it went to the softer second half of the song, it, it's cool. It's nothing insane. I think it's interesting. I think it's nice that they attempted to do like a 7-minute song like this.
Yeah, we love saxophone, so that was welcomed.
That's an
despite how
immediate-
fucking odd it was.
Immediate. It's such an easy win over for me, especially saxophone, or if you get like some breathy, distorted organ, that is gonna get me every time.
Oh yeah.
But it's fine enough. What's one of your nugs?
Who doesn't love a sexy organ?
Oh,
Mine jumped around a little bit because as the album was going on, I was kind of picking things just to like have something because I wasn't really liking any of it
Right.
that much. But then there were some songs genuinely towards the middle there that I liked a lot. So the first one, my first choice nug is Judged.
And I
I really liked it.
I believe that's one of the singles they released.
Okay, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I thought it was the most like punk rocky on the record, the angriest sounding one.
For
so
sure.
they had me going with like that energy, Yeah. Despite how ham-fisted the theme and the lyrics are,
Right.
I thought it was effective, albeit cheesy.
I think it might be the only odd time signature on the record. If I'm
Yeah,
remembering
it's
correctly.
like I'm not even doing it right because I always default to like 4/4.
It's like 7/8 or something like that.
It's 7/8 or something, but it's really punky and it's fun, aggressive, and it was the most of what sounded like their older stuff to me than anything else on the record too. So
Right.
that was an easy choice nug for me.
My second nug is kind of in that same vein. I think it's the best Billy Talent song on the record, and by that I mean like the previous stuff I'd heard before, and it's Reckless Paradise, the second song.
That was one of my first choice nugs as we were going through it.
I think it's a cool intro. I love that bass tone. It's very Sum 41-esque.
Very Sum 41-esque. We couldn't get over that when we were
No,
listening to it.
No, and I do love Sum 41, so maybe that's a reason why this is another nug.
Yeah, it's like Does This Look Infected era Sum 41
This song gave me
specifically.
This song gave me the impression that this was going to be like Crisis of Faith. Like maybe he was religious before and now he's fallen off of that, and he's kind of describing how he had like a line about, your thoughts and prayers mean nothing, which is like a lot like the Under Oath album we just listened to.
It sounds like people are struggling with their faith, man.
It makes sense. It's pretty
We gotta
hard
save
times.
these motherfuckers.
And an interesting enough riff throughout the whole thing. I think it's got a good energy.
Yeah, like very again like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3,
Sure,
straightforward pop punk music, but catchy chorus. Like again, I love the production of the guitar. I think that was probably my favorite thing on the whole record. Like I like the production of the guitar more than I like any of these songs.
Right.
I love the tone, and I think they pull it off really well. And there's not a lot of riffs on the record, and this one has a pretty decent riff,
For sure.
Yeah, I dig it, man. My second choice snug was also like kind of just one of the more energetic and catchier fun songs, and it was Hanging Out with All the Wrong People.
Hanging Out with All the Wrong People immediately after Judged.
Yeah, it follows the trend, right? Because Judge kind of got me there. Like I liked the energy a lot, and it was catchy, and it was really taking me out of like, dude, I Beg to Differ, The Wolf, and Reactor were like so painful for me that I started like getting in a bad mood. And so Judge and Hanging Out with All the Wrong People came up,
kind
and
of woke you up.
It woke me up a little bit. It picked up the pace. It was more fun. It sounded like more of their older stuff, but I think Hanging Out with All the Wrong People has a nice dancey.
It's got a groove
vibe to it.
I think they described it as a Cake Strokes type of vibe.
Dude, I totally hear Strokes, and now I totally hear Cake too, for sure.
But unfortunately, I don't think they do it nearly as good or interesting as either of those bands.
No, they don't. But I will say the chorus is super, super catchy. Like, hanging out with all the wrong people. I was hanging out with all the wrong people. Like, just super catchy.
Sure.
The chorus is a nice little lick that like, guitar doesn't do much, but they have a lick on this song.
Yeah.
I like that they kind of, did a little turn of the phrase of like, he was hanging out with all the wrong people, or versus, you would think it would be like, oh, all these hoodlums, like, people riding skateboards and, playing loud music, like hanging out in their driveways or whatever. And then you're just like, no, it's, he's talking about like politicians and like Christians and religious types. And, I like that turn of the phrase a lot.
Yeah.
And I like the synth that they did in the last verse. I thought the synth was like very cakey. Super, Cake uses that like Dr. Dre sound in synth on a lot of their songs, and that's what this was. And I could definitely hear the Cake tribute in that, and I dig it. But that was really about it, man. Like I like Reckless Parade, I like Judged, Hanging Out with All the Wrong People, and End of Me. And even then, I don't know if I'm going to listen to any of these songs ever again.
No, I don't know, man. I was definitely in the mood for a punky type of deal.
I was too.
We just recorded the Guster episode, so this was a welcome like change of pace.
We wanted something faster, something more lively.
But bands,
it just wasn't good.
Bands change, and sometimes it's not for the better. Sorry, Philly talent. Nothing against
it's
y'all.
it's not for our taste, man. It's just not my brand of rock and roll that I am gonna want to listen to again. Yeah. Honestly,
I think if you're a fan of Billy Talent, you'll like this record well enough. I don't think you'll dislike it or anything. If you only listen to 2000s pop punk, I think you'll be pretty cool with it. And
if that's like all you listen to, like you haven't listened to any My Chemical Romance albums since like Black Parade or whatever, and you haven't listened to any of the Used since their like second record, and that's all you listen to, you might really love this.
With that being said, what are you gonna rate this one, bud?
Dude, I'm rating this honestly like a 3.2.
Yeah, I was thinking around like the 2.5 range. Honestly, the best thing about this album is the art.
Yeah, the album art is awesome, and it's like you said that it totally did the record a
disservice.
Disservice because the album art sets you up for this like kind of chaotic, fucking crazy looking, almost like a Mad Max dystopian vibe that you're gonna have. So I expected something really fast and chaotic and kind of loud and crazy, and we got just like very basic, straightforward rock music.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? It is what it is, man. buddies, like, did y'all enjoy this record? Like, are we being way too harsh on it? You know, like, maybe if we'd listened to what Billy Talent had done up to this point, you know, since we last were listening to them, like, maybe we would have been more prepared for this sound to come from them. But it certainly was a surprise to me, and not a very welcomed, enjoyable one either. So
No, it really sounds like they've never grown, and they've in fact kind of, I don't know, any
regressed, to be honest.
Yeah.
It sounds like regression to me.
It's almost like they were like, all right, let's do another one by the books.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's too bad, man. I was looking forward to something better. But it is what it is, man. Thanks for listening to this episode, buddies. Let us know what you think about this. You know, if we're wrong, hey man, we're willing to listen to dissenting opinion.
To all the crazed Billy Talent fans out there.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Check us out on Instagram at EBPcast. I'm at Jean-Luc Guitard. Brett is at Brett Hanrahan. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere you can get podcasts. Like, let us know what's up, man. Give us a follow. Give us a comment. Let us know what albums you want us to review, because we're always looking for good records to review. Maybe there's an older Billy Talent record that we don't even, know about that we should check out. Let us know, man.
But aside from that, thank y'all for listening.
Yeah, I'd rate this episode a 2.5.
Yep. I would rate it about 2 point something, whatever.
Yeah, Brett, I don't know. I guess this was good.
Was this good? I don't think it was.
This might have been good.
All right, bye, buddies.
Bye, buddies.